Do you ever feel inferior or self-conscious when you're speaking English with either native speakers or fluent non-native speakers? This is a very common problem that a lot of English learners face. Oftentimes when you start speaking, you feel very self-conscious, you feel scared, you feel like you're being judged by the other person because you don't speak well enough, or maybe you're not being understood. You know, sometimes it may be right. Sometimes it may be that you're not speaking English well enough that the other person doesn't understand. But many times this feeling just comes from a lack of confidence and not because of a lack of skills. And many times this feeling that stems from lack of confidence is one of the one of the main reasons that is actually preventing you from progressing. So in this video, I want to talk about this exactly.
Hey guys, before we return to the video, I just want to tell you that ESA is now open for application. So if you are a professional or an expat who need to urgently speak English in your life, make sure that you check this out because it's going to be super interesting. So go on the website, click apply now, and we will get in touch with you if you guys are a fit into this program. So back to the video and enjoy.
So in this video, I want to talk about why you're feeling like this, what is actually happening, like what is the other person thinking when they're speaking with you, and how can we overcome this. Let's get into it. So whenever we talk about a problem, we always want to start with the why. Why do we feel this way? So first is the fear of mistakes. It's like when you're thinking, what if I say something wrong? What if I don't use the right grammar? What if I don't pronounce this correctly? So that's fear of mistake. And two is fear of judgment. You feel that the other person, the native speaker or the other fluent non-native, will judge you from the way you pronounce things, or they will get annoyed by your accent or something, or they don't think that you speak English well enough, so they judge you. And the three is the lack of confidence. The lack of confidence could also stem from an actual lack of skills, or it's really just, noisy voices in your head that is not really based on truth. So these are some reasons why you feel this way. But I just want to say that feeling this way is a normal part of learning. But oftentimes, if you let this feeling get bigger than it actually should be, this is really going to prevent you from actually making improvements in your English. But the good news is that a lot of the time, this fear is much bigger in our head than it is in reality. Talking about reality, let's talk about the what. Let's talk about some truth about what native speakers or other non-fluent native speakers think when you're speaking in English. So the likelihood of you being judged for your English really vary greatly depending on where you live or the kind of people that you're dealing with. So for instance, let's say you live in a home country and you speak with a foreigner. Maybe they're like, a tourist or an expat or something. Very highly likely that they are very tolerant about the different accents or the lack of English skills that you may possess. These people are more likely to be more understanding of your not so perfect English because they know that they are in a foreign country where English is not the main language. So knowing this should give you a little bit more of a consolation to think that it's okay, they're not as judgmental. They know that they are in my country and I am actually putting a lot of effort to speak English, and they're going to appreciate me for that. So instead of thinking that, oh my god, they're gonna judge me for my not so perfect English, switch it to their understanding because they're in my country. Or maybe you're in a foreign country where, let's say, English is not the main language of that country, but it is like the international language. So in this kind of situation, it's very often the case that you will be speaking in English with other people whose native language is also not English. So a lot of times you're probably going to interact with other people whose English is also not as good. And in this situation, this should also make you feel safer because everyone else is also struggling to speak English, to interact. Of course, I'm generalizing a lot now. I need to generalize a little bit to be able to make a point. But the point is that if you're interacting in an international setting with other people whose native language is not English, you're going to be interacting with people who are more tolerant of your, let's say, lack of English skills. Not really lack of English skills, but not so perfect English. As long as your English skill is at a level where you are able to be understood through your message, then that's great. On the contrary, let's say you find yourself, you're a foreigner in a country where English is the first language, let's say USA or Australia or the UK or something, and you feel a little bit inferior because everyone is a native speaker there and they of course speak perfectly. Again, it depends on the people that you interact with. You're probably going to find people who is going to be a bit more judgmental about your, accent or the different way that you speak English. In this case, maybe you're feeling lack of confidence or you're feeling judged is reasonable. In this kind of situation where you feel like the other person is not so open-minded and they have never met any foreigner before and they've never heard different accents in their life, they will probably be a little bit more judgmental or even maybe just curious about your English or your accent. In this situation, it's a bit more justified to feel inferior. However, if you meet someone who's going to judge you out loud about the fact that you don't speak English well, then you're just gonna want to avoid this kind of people altogether. You don't want to interact with these people, so just, so don't use this experience of, let's say, being judged out loud as a way to feel bad about yourself. It's just, they're just not good people, okay? So now you see that some of the different situations where your lack of confidence is justified, your feeling inferior is justified, and another situation where it is not. In many cases, people that you speak with, they're quite understanding. So of course, like these not so good people who are going to judge you out loud, they're kind of the minority a lot of the cases. In a lot of cases, maybe I'm being a little bit optimistic, you're gonna find more, gentle and more understanding people than you do bad people, right? Take comfort to the fact that a lot of people are more understanding of your difficulties in speaking a second language, a foreign language. People are more tolerant and people are patient. And many times, people also appreciate the effort that you put into speaking with them in their native language or in a foreign language. So again, if you meet people who are not these three things and they're just bad, you want to avoid them altogether. So now we understand the what is really going on, different types of situations. Now let's move on to the how. How do we overcome this fear of feeling inferior or the lack of confidence of not speaking well enough? Well, first, if let's say the reason of your lack of confidence is because your English is not very good, you actually lack the skills, then of course you want to start practicing a little bit more. You want to start to expose yourself to English. Of course, I give a lot of tips in my channel about how to do that. If let's say lack of confidence stems from a lack of skills, then you want to skill up, you want to level up. If your confidence stems from your head, your noisy mind not being good to you and preventing you from progressing, then you want to work on that a little bit. You want to start working on how you speak to yourself so that you can practice a little bit more with confidence. And of course, with a lot of things that we talked about in point 2, a lot of those facts, you can use that to soothe yourself before you interact with native speakers or fluent non-natives. Another thing that you can do to overcome this is to focus on communication. Your goal should not be, I need to sound as perfect, I need to be correct in my grammar, in my pronunciation, because this kind of expectation on yourself it's too high of a stake. You set the bar too high, and when you set the bar too high, it gives you a lot of pressure, and a lot of pressure hinders you from actually communicating smoothly because it adds a lot more mental load in your head. Instead, just focus on communicating clearly. Just focus on what message that you're trying to deliver and just use simple words to use that. So use simple words to communicate your message. So don't worry about sounding perfect, don't worry about sounding smart, don't worry about using the right grammar or whatever. As long as you are understood, you are good. Just have that mantra, in your head when you start speaking. Lower the stakes, lower the pressure. So just lower the pressure for yourself. And if you want to slowly build the confidence in speaking with other people, natives or non-natives, then you want to start with finding a supportive environment, you know? So either that can be online communities for language learners, or like a language exchange forum, or events that you can go to where everyone in that event is learning to speak English, you know? So lower the stakes for you. Find a safe and supportive setting where you can do that. I think in this channel I also have made videos where you can actually find communities online to speak English. There are a lot of apps for you to do that as well. And of course, at this day and age, you have a lot of these AI tools that you can use to start speaking with robots. So that's absolutely going to be safe, and they're not going to judge you. And of course, the last thing that you can do to overcome this is to have a more positive self-talk, you know? So don't punish yourself for not being able to speak perfectly. Again, just tell yourself a lot of the things that we talked about in point 2, the reality of things. Tell yourself it's great that I'm putting effort in this, I'm practicing, people are supportive of my journey, of my effort. I am improving every day, I'm consistent and showing up into bettering myself, and I can do this, you know? So change the negative self-talk to something more positive, as long as you still ground yourself in reality. So this video has gone on for a little bit too long, so I hope that you got something new, you learned something new from this video. If you do, give it a thumbs up for the algorithm. Comment down below to share your experiences. Until then, I'll see you in the next video. Take care and bye-bye.